Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? It's real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to gabbing.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Til Mets Do Us Part. We are live on YouTube, live on Twitter, live on Substack, like we are each and every single week. John Saponaro coming to you from North Hollywood, California. And let me say right out of the gate, I apologize for not being around last week. Something popped up last minute, had to take care of it, had no other choice. I watched the episode, though, when I could live and listened back, and I knew that my co-host would hold it down. I did not expect that my co-host would have an impromptu guest, but a welcome addition for Gab to jump in and join the show and effectively serve as a co-host, really, in a lot of ways to the show after spending some time down in spring training. But again, shout out to Gab for jumping in last minute. Shout out to my co-host for making it work, because I did not give him a lot of notice, but I'm happy to be back, happy to be talking Mets baseball with all of you. So that aforementioned co-host, Matt Ibanez, holding things down back in New Jersey. Ibby, before we get into the conversation here today, you know what I got to do. I got to ask you how you are feeling. And before you answer, it's showing me that you are muted. So make sure that you unclick. And then, how you feeling?
I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed at the moment, John. Obviously, a lot going on in the Ibanez household. I know I said it in the comments. Everyone wants to run with it and think it's a joke. Yes, it's Wi-Fi. Yes, it's this. Yes, I'm dusting off the back of my brick wall. All the jokes, I think they're all funny. I laughed at them as I was reading them. But little madness, some sickness in the house, taking care of the girl, dropped off to the doctor, wife jumping in last second, a lot of running around, getting back here, a lot of movement. As you can see, my setup's a little bit different. I know you can still see the brick wall, new camera, trying to get used to that, trying to get used to my new surroundings. There's going to be a lot of changes over the next couple of weeks down here. So just wanted to make sure I was able to get everything proper and up and running to make sure I was able to get on the show today, because it's Wednesday and we know that the red light's on. We want to have some fun. So let's do that. Let's have some fun. I'm doing good. So let's talk some Mets. Let's do it.
Speaking of changes, I know last week was weird as well. The chat dropped out. The 2 weeks before that, it was a little strange with pushing out live content to Twitter. I think the live content to Twitter has been fixed. It seems like we have the chat back in full effect. There is something going on that's a little bit behind the scenes, but in the interest of transparency, I did mention that we are live on YouTube, we are live on Twitter, we are live on Substack, but we are only live on the Til Mets Do Us Part Twitter. Ibby and I currently deciding whether or not we want to stay with our current software for streaming and multi-platform streaming with all of you guys, which is we use a program called StreamYard. They've been good to us, but it is kind of expensive. So we're looking into some other options. And so while we sort that out, hopefully between the next week or so, we may not be live in the full complement of places, which would be like my Twitter and Ibby's Twitter, in addition to the show stuff. Again, because, we just want to be honest with you guys about what's going on. So if you click over to my Twitter and you're like, why isn't it over there? Or Ibby's Twitter, why isn't it over there? We're just trying to sort through.
Yeah, I mean, I would again, if you're on the Twitter side, you want to retweet the stream, please do so. I just retweeted the one from our show account on my account, so it's going to show up on my page now as well. So yeah, if you're on that side, retweet it, share it, do whatever you got to do to make sure you get the word out, so we can get more people in the chat. But obviously, we want to drive the traffic to the YouTube side anyway. But at the same time, we want to get as many eyes as possible. So share, share, share.
Absolutely. Shout out to the chat. Lazy Mary's in here. Mike Laverty, Armand is amazing. Pantrice, Tony HVAC, Ethan KL. We've got Brad in the house. Chrissy, I already pulled up a comment from her. Did I say Mike Laverty? Mike Laverty's here if I didn't say it. We have Rabbi Goldberg in the house. Non-Genarian is here. Jake Brown as well.
Got a rabbi.
Shout out Jake Brown. And I think
What's
that
up, Jake?
might be it as far as live commenters go right now. But as always, that number will continue to climb as we get deeper and deeper into the show. Ibby, there's a lot of places that we can start. Baseball's sort of in a way in full swing. I think you could say that even in spring training when there is a World Baseball Classic. When it's a World Baseball Classic year, because what we have started to see is, some exhibition games played with a little bit more intensity, right? The New York Mets take on, Nicaragua first, and then I believe Israel, and then with some other exhibition contests with, different, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but teams basically playing countries, which I think is always fun when you get, a situation like what we have going on with Mark Vientos, where he's playing for Team Nicaragua against the Mets. I always think stuff like that is kind of fun and interesting, and whatever the case may be. But it's a nice taste of real baseball, which I know for the start of the season, we're still about 3 weeks away, and spring training at this point would be almost intolerable, but we have the World Baseball Classic to turn our attention to. And like I said on Walk Off Whiskey 2 weeks ago, there is some enticing things going on with the Mets at large, whether that's, the battle for right field, who's going to take that job, couple spots in the bullpen, what are they going to do with the starting rotation, 5-man, 6-man, whatever the case may be. So I think when you have some new faces and some question marks on a team, especially question marks on a team that you also expect to be good, that makes for a more exciting spring training rather than, oh, here's Pete Alonso, here's Brandon Nimmo, here's the same team. And I don't mean to, go and dump on those guys out of the gate, but when you have the same team and the same group of guys and you run it back every year and you expect people to be in certain positions and things like that, it makes for a very ho-hum experience. So when you add in the new faces, you add in the new positions, you add in the positional battles, you add in the WBC, I think this becomes a much more interesting spring training. And so far, I think it sort of has lived up to that. As far as the Mets are concerned, Nolan Mclean, Christian Scott, Jonah Tong, Carson Benge. I mean, there's so much you could talk about, and some of the guys haven't even stepped on the field yet in a way that we can see them. Jorge Polanco and Luis Robert Jr. and things like that. So a lot going on in the world of baseball, despite the fact that none of this stuff really matters right now.
Yeah, I think I put it in the description. I was like, we're in a month now where there is finally, real baseball will be played. We got to wait about 22 more days. I believe 26 is the opening day against Pitt. So we still got some time before that happens. But all in all, like you said, it's interesting because we talked a lot about this during the off season, or during the, the build up during, winter meetings and everything, about how this amount of changeover can bring forth a lot more youth, a lot more excitement in that sense. And you're seeing all that play out right now, which is great. I love it. But I was just thinking to myself today, as I was getting prepped for the show and everything, we're still we're kind of at that point where we talked about 2-3 weeks ago. We're going to get to that point during this spring training where we're kind of okay, all right, I'm ready for baseball. And that's kind of where I am. But like you said, the WBC is here also to give us a little bit of a taste in terms of things. But I'm still also interested in the things that are going on in Mets camp. We talked a lot about it last week, me and Gab hitting on, right field, and Mike Tauchman and Carson Benge having a day today, hitting a home run against the lefty. Great to see. So yeah, there's still some interesting things going on within camp. Christian Scott looking good today as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I'm with you. There's still some interesting subplots going on within this team, how the bench is going to shape out, what's going to happen in right field, like you said. And the fact also that our manager is outright and says that, no, we are going with the 6-man rotation. So there's a lot still going on that's going to make the first, couple of weeks of the season interesting. And we'll get into that, amongst the next couple of weeks.
GSD checking in over on Twitter saying Ibby looks 7 feet tall. Ibby, you do look
Different.
taller.
I do. Yeah.
You're not 7 feet tall, but of
No.
the two of us, you are definitely the taller one. Which is not necessarily a difficult thing to accomplish if people have ever met me in person. But you look taller. You look framed up differently. I don't know if you want to let people know why. You look good. You look crystal clear. I don't know if you want to let people in on exactly why. You told me right before we went live. So I think it looks good.
I appreciate it. Like I'm trying to change some things up when it comes to presentation. I finally got a new camera. Which is sitting up here now. So if I'm having a hard time because I'm used to looking at this camera on my computer. Now I have to look up here. So I'm kind of getting used to that in a sense. So I apologize if I'm constantly looking down, but trying some new stuff out. And like I said, there's a lot of change going over within the basement, trying to make it look nicer, trying to make up my own area. So like I said, over the next couple of weeks, just bear with me. I'm trying to make it look good, but yes, a little bit different angle. You see a little bit more of me. So hopefully I look decent. I'll make sure I wear decent clothes going forward, since you'll see more of it. But I'm excited about my new camera. It's good stuff.
Speaking of clothes, Mike Laverty said John is dressed like a high school fine arts teacher who tries to fit in with the students. I like that one. That's an early contender, Mike.
That's a good one.
That is an early contender. Armand saying Ibby looks jacked. Did he get help from Profar? Jerickson oh man, flexing on him. Jerickson Profar.
No, I'm not hanging out with Profar. I'm not hanging out with Profar.
No. If you guys are listening to this later, wherever you get your podcast, you couldn't see it. Ibby literally flexing as I read that comment. I know it has nothing to do with the Mets directly, Ibby, but god damn it, if Jerickson Profar is the dumbest bastard in the world, dude. I know he already sat through a suspension, but he got paid. He could be terrible. Like maybe the breakout year and what got him paid and all that stuff. Maybe that was all PED assisted. I don't know. That's pure speculation on my part. Yeah. And then maybe he felt like he needed to be on the PEDs to live up to the contract or whatever the case may be. Maybe some combination of both. But after getting the suspension last year and losing money from that deal, the baseball contracts like his, I mean, most free agent contracts, all free agent contracts for the most part, they're guaranteed. So what is the point? You got 2 more years on the deal. Just take the money. It doesn't matter if you bet 220, 420, something in between. I cannot believe that you would get suspended again for PEDs on the heels of being suspended for PEDs after signing what I think is the best contract he's ever signed in his career.
Absolutely. And we talked about, we were talking about Profar as an option for this team like two years ago now, like you said, because we signed the deal with the Braves 2 years ago. We always mentioned like, oh, maybe he's just a guy that's meant to thrive in San Diego because he started breaking out in San Diego. And like, maybe this is just a place where it all just clicks. Maybe he should stay there. And then he goes elsewhere and he gets popped twice for the same thing. And I think is more stupid about the entire thing is the fact that he was asked a question, and I know probably Keith, because Keith's been on, he's been trolling the Braves fans hard over these last couple of days, which has been hilarious. But the fact that one of the reporters asked him like, "Hey, Jerickson, like moving it, new season, new year. Are we all clear from all the nonsense that happened last year? Like, do we understand like what's right, what's wrong? Like, no more hiccups, right?" And he was like, "Yep, no problems." And all of a sudden, it's like 2 weeks later, it's like, "Nope, there are problems. You're doing the same exact thing, and now you're gone for an entire season, and you cost yourself whatever it was, like $20 or $15 million, whatever it may be. Just stupid. There's no other word for it. It's just dumb."
Yeah, it's not quite Rafael Palmeiro pointing his finger at like Congress.
I did not.
But it's pretty close, right? Somebody's like, we're good. You're like, yeah, no, we're totally good. And then like 17 hours later, they're like, actually, you're suspended again. So thank you, Armand, for the information. Profar signed 3 years, $42 million.
42.
Let me know Armand, if you can, is that the biggest contract that Profar has ever signed? I mean, obviously, Jerickson Profar, former.
I think it has to be.
I think
he was the number
one
one prospect. He was
overall prospect in baseball, but then Texas. He got off to a really slow start in his career, and then a lot of fits and starts after that before kind of finding himself, and maybe he found something else along the way. Again, just speculation as to when he may have started using performance-enhancing drugs, but here he is serving his second suspension. But yeah, it'd be for a guy who was as highly touted and didn't have it go his way, and then, got on the scene and maybe was finally seeing some semblance of the success. It's wild. It is wild to see you just like give up money. Armand saying between the back-to-back suspensions, it's already cost him $21 million. I mean,
woof.
Bro.
Imagine blowing that. Imagine that. Like 21 million. It's like,
just 21. $21 million, whatever. No big deal. Joe DeMeo saying it'd be 50 podcast suspension for PEDs.
That's a guy. I do like that one, Joe. That's a good one.
Lazy Mary, Ibby exercising his Second Amendment rights with those biceps. Rosie K, no grease stained shirts today, Ibby.
Nope. We keep them clean. We keep them clean. We keep them clean, baby.
There's one person in the world who's got the market cornered on grease stained shirts. Lazy Mary will never let the world forget who that person is. The one and only Mike Janella. Speaking of mics, by the way, this one came in earlier, Ibby, and I did want to point it out. Mike Laverty said this before we started. He said, if you're engaging in the chat today and you haven't liked and or subscribed, you don't deserve to be here. And that is very pointed. But I like when people say stuff like this, because then I can put it on the screen and I can read it and no one can say that I'm being a dick because I'm just reading. I like this sentiment, but if I say it, it's kind of mean to be like, you better be listening to our podcast and subscribe to our podcast. Otherwise you don't deserve to be here. So those are not my words.
No,
I'm just reading a comment from M. Laverty 25, who I enjoy a lot and is a frequent listener and viewer and commenter in our show. And I just think sometimes people say comments, you got to put them up on the screen. Ibby, back into the Mets conversation. I think maybe the best place to start is with Nolan Mclean. He's looked absolutely insanely good. When you factor in this issue that he had with vertigo, kind of in between starts and all this stuff, makes some of the stuff that we saw from him in his first outing and everything, it seemed even more impressive. I think the fastball was up to 98 at times with the crazy movement, some of the other pitches he was throwing, all this stuff. He's going to the World Baseball Classic, or he's already at the World Baseball Classic. So we're not going to see him with the Mets for a bit, but when you count out the days, and then it was confirmed by Mark DeRosa, who's the manager for the Team USA, Nolan Mclean's not only going to pitch here early in a consequential game, but when you do the math, if USA goes as far as a lot of people expect them to, which is all the way to the finals, Nolan Mclean might find himself on the mound in the biggest game of the World Baseball Classic. And man, listen, I think from what we saw from the dude last year when he came up to the majors, he's got stones. He can handle it. But there is no better way to cement yourself going into what is your first full season in the big leagues than being on a stage like this. And it only comes around every couple of years with the World Baseball Classic, where there was a lot of national attention around Mclean to begin with. But I think we might see this stuff go to a new level if he performs the way that he is capable of, especially if Team USA makes it to the finals, which I know is a lot to go because the tournament hasn't even officially started yet. But man, that would be crazy considering he was probably going to be a piggyback guy about a week ago.
It's wild to think about in that sense because, he was a piggyback guy. And now you're saying, well, if things go the way that people think that it can go for the Americans, like he could be on the biggest stage against an insane opponent, putting him, as a Met in front of a lot more people and really putting himself on the map in the sense of star, if you will. And there's one thing I can say about Mclean that I've seen so far from spring, which I know is limited because, we can't even watch a majority of these damn games because they're not on television. But But from the things that I have seen and the things that I have read up to this point, it just seems as though that the way he carries himself, like, I know he constantly says he's a competitor. He wants to go out there. He wants to be on the mound. He wants the ball, and it's all great things. And that whole bulldog mentality, like all the things that as a fan you want to hear, especially as a Met fan. But everything that I've seen so far, it just comes across as pure veteran. And he's still categorized as a rookie. He's the odds-on favorite this year going into the season as as a rookie of the year candidate. And just the way he carries himself, he comes across as if he's like a 5, 7, 10-year vet. Like he's out there, like he doesn't seem like he's rattled by things. He goes out there, puts in his work. He doesn't seem like the moment's ever really too big for him. Now, look, I understand last year he comes up, he dazzles, he has 8 starts, and I shouldn't be putting the cart before the horse here. But I just feel that the way he goes about his business, I think he's already a well-established pitcher. Like that's the way I'm looking at him, because I don't think he's overmatched by the lights. And we talk about that a lot in New York about how some guys just can't handle the lights. Like I love Jonah Tong. I love everything that he has in terms of stuff, but did he look overmatched and overwhelmed and like deer in the headlights last year? Yeah, he did. For a 21-year-old kid, like that's what you would expect. I know McClain's a little bit older, but we're talking about a two-way guy that wasn't really that high end in terms of prospect across baseball, and he comes in, he lights the world on fire. Like that says a lot to me about, like you said, the stones that he has and the overall personality that he has. It just seems like he's ready for this moment, and the fact that he could be even in a bigger moment with the WBC. I have all the confidence in the world in him, and I'm sure that's a position he would love to be in.
It's funny because you don't want to draw these comparisons because they're unfair or whatever the case may be, but it's hard not to make some comparisons. And I'm not saying that Nolan Mclean is Jacob deGrom, but deGrom's a guy who gets drafted as a position player. I know McClain gets drafted as a two-way player, and maybe that baseball player mentality, that everyday player mentality, factors into a guy's bulldog nature that we've seen with McClain in short samples and short bursts so far. And that we saw with deGrom, over basically his entire tenure with the Mets. Look, this is a guy who, like you said, not necessarily the biggest prospect in Jacob deGrom when he got called up. And I know he went through his little bit of a downturn before he became the Jacob deGrom Superman Cy Young winner that we all really, really loved. But this was a guy who, from the moment he got to the big leagues, you're like, I just think this guy's got something. You don't know that he's going to go on to become what he became. But you're like, man, this guy's got an it thing about him. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be part of the similarity there might be what sets guys like that apart a little bit, because, they're kind of used to, again, just being a baseball player, not necessarily focusing on being a pitcher and going out there every 5 days or whatever the case is. But the thing that I find incredibly interesting, because while that aspect of it, the bulldog mentality, the just being a ball player, just being an athlete, that definitely seems like to this point it's helping McClain. The crazy thing to me, Ibby, is that this is a guy who started pitching full-time last season. He gave up being a two-way player last season. And the fact that he has come on so quickly as a pitcher with, the spin rate and the stuff. And I know that maybe you could say that control/command is the thing that, hasn't fully arrived yet, even though, it's certainly good enough. It plays. But that is what I find to be probably the most impressive thing so far. Yeah, he's a bulldog. Yeah, he's got the guts. Yeah, he's a ball player. Yeah, he's an athlete. But what he's capable of doing as a physical pitcher is stunning to me, considering he's only been focusing on it for about a year.
And I think what you said really rings true about, the competitive nature that you bring as an everyday player, because again, you're playing every day. Like taking that to the mound and knowing that you're out there once every 5th day, once every 6th day, and you're ready to go out there and compete hard. Like it's incredible to me that he's been able to, transform and become this high-end arm, respected arm, and then goes out there in his first full spring training and he comes across like he is the ace. I know we've been talking all offseason about how this team needs to go out there and get an ace and get someone that's front line to tag team with McClain. And I still think that Freddy Peralta is, every bit of an ace pitcher, 1A, 2, whatever you want to say. Like he belongs up there and he's someone that I want to be here. But, again, the way McClain is carrying himself, like he comes across like he wants to be the one that is, the standard bearer, in that, the one who holds that torch, even though he's not going to be the opening day starter this year, which is fine. I don't care about that. Like I thought Peralta should be it. I just think that we have a good one here. And you can, if you want to look, I think people automatically can hear you say DeGrom and be like, whoa, John, take it easy, because of what DeGrom has done in his career and what he became. But am I like, look, I can say another name where I'm like, guy comes up, has a lot of strikeouts, has a moxie about him, is a righty. Could this be a, what we deserved or what we thought we were going to get with someone like Matt Harvey? Could he be something along those lines? Like, I don't know, possibly. I mean, Harvey had his, moment in the sun. Could this be what McClain ends up being, but on a longer term, a longer term scope as opposed to burning out as quickly as it did? Possibly. That'd be great. I would love it. It'd be a nice payback to Mets fans, that's for sure. But it's exciting times, I think, for a team that's coming off of a season where the pitching really faltered. I think seeing what Peralta has done so far this spring, seeing what McClain is doing and what could be on the horizon with those two, at least, it's bright times, I believe, for Mets pitching moving forward into 26.
Jump back into the comments here. And if you are watching live, it's one of the best ways to take part in the show. Of course, we don't mind if you're watching live. You just want to sit in the background and listen to what we have to say and some of the other commenters have to say along the way. But if you'd like to chime in either on Twitter or on YouTube, you certainly can. Although remember, in order to be a part of the live chat on YouTube, you have to be subscribed to the channel. Speaking of the chat, Lazy Mary saying, Mendy was just confused. He meant McClain had to take a day off because he was listening to Vertigo. He's a huge U2 fan. Jumping back for just a moment, thank you, Armand, for checking this when we were talking about Profar. It is the biggest contract that Profar has signed in his career per Spot Rack. 2021 to 2023, he signed for 3 years, $21 million with the Padres. So Ibby, I know we've moved on from this, but he has already forfeited essentially that entire deal because of the PED suspension, which is absolute madness. The other side of this Nolan Mclean pitching in the WBC, before we talk more about the other side for the Mets, which is Freddy Peralta, and you kind of touched on it a little bit already, I do want to give some credence to this because a few people have brought it up. Mike Laverty saying, more nervous about McClain being ultra competitive in a winner-take-all game. MEZBX saying, I hate that McClain is in the WBC. I mean, I think you're always going to get comments like that, especially with pitchers, especially from Mets fans who had to watch what happened with Edwin Diaz a couple of years ago in the World Baseball Classic. I think it's unfortunate because I think it's put a little bit of a black eye, a little bit of a tarnish on what is otherwise a really great tournament for Major League Baseball, for baseball in general. But I don't feel that way as MEZ does and Mike Laverty does, but I can't fault them for feeling that way or just being a little apprehensive. I don't know where you land on this with regards to players in general and specifically pitchers on your team being a part of the World Baseball Classic.
Look, no matter what, it's always going to be, you're always going to be a little bit more clenched up when it comes to throwing live bullets this early and competing this early because we've seen, nightmares happen. We experienced one obviously with Diaz a couple of years ago. But again, like it's a worry because you're curious if that added adrenaline, that added competitiveness is what ends up breaking somebody. But at the same time, like I still think guys go out there and work and compete, even if it's a smidge lower. Like I still think that if something was going to happen, it was going to happen. Like I can't I'm not going to fault these guys for going out there wanting to play for their country and win. Like, I'm not going to lose my mind over it. Do I think that there is some added risk? I do. But at the same time, I think pitching in general, as I've said over the last handful of years on this show, I think pitching is extremely volatile. And no matter what, if someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get hurt. Like, I just feel like in the end, all pitchers are a time bomb. So really, I'm not going to fault people in this game. I'm not going to get too up about anything, because just as much as anything can happen in a WBC game, it could just as well happen on the backfield at Port St. Lucie.
I agree. And I think that's where you have to separate the Edwin Diaz stuff from kind of what you're talking about now, which is, can an injury happen? Yes, an injury can happen to anybody, anywhere. We've seen players get hurt walking down the stairs, sneezing, trying to open up a box for a toy for their kid. Like, the strangest things have happened on the field.
I'll never forget. I'll just cut you off real quick. I'll never forget. I can't remember, the name's escaping me, but there was somebody years ago in Colorado, a decent ball player too. Yeah, he had like a couple of good years there, where he was like he fell down because he was cutting deer meat, and he was out for like 3 weeks. I can't remember the name, but like, just to add to the craziness of things that happen to a baseball player, like, you hear all the stories.
It wasn't friend of the show Turk Wendell, was it? Because
no, it was not Turk Wendell. It was not Turk Wendell. It was somebody else.
That sounds like something Turk would do. Although, if Turk were on the show right now, I think he'd say that he wouldn't fall down cutting the deer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Is probably how Turk would respond to that. Like, I've processed my fair share of deer meat. I'm not going to fall down doing it. Oh, this is a good one. The guy who got hurt playing Guitar Hero and ruined his career. That was Joel Zumaya, wasn't it? With the fireballing closer from Detroit.
That's what happened to him? Really? I didn't know that.
I think he hurt his finger playing Guitar Hero, and he was never the same. Ever.
How hard was he playing?
Too hard.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. This is too much. Whatever if you've ever played Guitar Hero, and if you're, mine and Ibby's age, Guitar Hero or Rock Band is right in like our age range wheelhouse. Yeah. If you've ever played that game, if you got hurt and ruined your athletic career doing it, you either have like the softest soft tissues in the world, or you were playing way too hard.
Way too hard.
Yeah, that Lazy Mary. He played through the fire and flames backwards on 3 times speed. Like, that feels like what it would take.
Yeah, seriously.
It feels like what it would take.
That's nuts.
How do you hurt yourself that bad playing Guitar Hero? What a pull, Ethan. What a great one. Really, really good. Yes. Obviously Scherzer's had a great career. He's going to the Hall of Fame, but Scherzer did famously miss a bunch of starts for sleeping wrong.
Armand guy, that's the name. Clint Barnes. Yeah. That's the one.
Clint Barnes in 2005, teammate Tom Helton gifted him a package of deer meat. While carrying the meat up the stairs, he fell and broke his left collarbone.
That's what it was. Insane.
Oh my God.
That's what it was.
Jesus Christ. You start to it's fun to have these conversations, because it puts stuff like Edwin Diaz into perspective, where you're like, was that freaky? Sure.
Yeah.
Was it in the context of a baseball game? Like, no, not really. Right. Because the game was over and it was due to celebration. You could say, would he have been celebrating that hard if it was a spring training game? Obviously not. But it takes me back to, I believe it was Kendrys Morales who tore his ACL jumping on home plate after hitting a walk-off home run. Yep. That freaky stuff can happen anywhere.
Good callback. Hell of a hitter. Kendrys was a good hitter.
Oh my God, dude, that's another guy. I mean, Kendrys Morales was never the same after that. I mean, it's no playing Guitar Hero, but yeah, he did. He snapped his leg. You'd rather do that hitting a walk-off home run than playing Guitar Hero in your downtime. But like, this stuff can happen is the point. And when you think about carrying deer meat up a flight of stairs, or sleeping wrong, or playing Guitar Hero, like, you'd rather have it happen celebrating a big win in the WBC. I think if you're the athlete themselves, right? Because the other stuff is,
of course,
is odd. Another good one. Aaron Boone famously tore his ACL playing pickup basketball in the offseason, which then led to
A-Rod.
The Yankees getting A-Rod. Yeah. So I mean, these things are crazy. Also, didn't some pitcher slice his finger cutting vegetables or something like 3 years ago? I do remember that. I don't remember the particulars of it, but that is definitely a situation that had happened with someone. Maybe Armin can find it too. Corey Holtz is saying, let's wrap them all in bubble wrap and packing peanuts in the off season and baby proof their house just in case. I think that's the perfect comment, because it's just like, look, this stuff can just happen. And sometimes it's playing recreational sports. Sometimes it's in the heat of a game. Sometimes it's at the tail end of a game celebrating. It's
sometimes just waking up.
Yeah.
Sometimes just, and look, we have, like Armand just said it before in the comments, like any baseball fan knows that, Hunter Green is an electric pitcher for the Reds. He's awesome to watch. He's getting an MRI. Like it sucks. But again, he's someone who comes into the spring. He had some arm issues last year, but he said, I was fine in the offseason. I come into spring. I was like, kind of like, he hasn't thrown that much. And then all of a sudden he's just like, I need an MRI now. Now he's getting checked out. Like, anytime you hear that, like, you're extremely nervous as a Reds fan, as a baseball fan. Like, it sucks, but this isn't even him going out and competing in the WBC. Like, this is him just waking up one day and just being like, elbow's a little bit off. And then now he might be, who knows? He'll probably miss 3-4 months of the season because they're going to find bone spurs. You got to go in and get taken care of or whatever. Like, stuff like that. It happens. It sucks, but that's the way the game goes.
There's a fun kind of sidebar from Julian Barbosa in the comments that I'll get to in a minute. I want to kind of finish this conversation here just with this last little wrinkle as far as Nolan Mclean pitching in the WBC goes. M. Easy saying, I hate it because McLean's a rookie. He shouldn't be in the World Baseball Classic. And I think I'll take this once, or I'll provide a little bit of clarification, although it's not my comment. I think what M. Easy means here is that, like, this is a guy who hasn't maybe had the full spring training experience, the full ramp up. We talk about him being a guy who just transitioned last season to being a full-time pitcher. He wasn't even in big league camp last year because of the timing of his arrival and everything. And now he's getting his opportunity to go through big league camp for the first time. You're going to take him away from that. You're going to change his preparation. You're going to put him somewhere else. Like, you could talk about a guy like Skeens or Skubal, who are unequivocally the best pitchers in baseball right now, but they kind of, so in that regard, they're quote unquote more valuable than McLean, but they kind of know what it takes. They know their body a bit better. So does this wrinkle mean anything to you? The fact that he's a rookie, he hasn't gone through it yet. Does that give you any pause at all? For me, again, I'm going to just say, no, I don't love it, but it's just nothing you could do about it. I think the World Baseball Classic is cool. So it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, again, I don't think you can just shut something off for people just because they're a rookie if they have the opportunity or they're asked to go pitch for their country. Like, if that's what they want to do, like, I'm not going to fault anyone. Like, I don't have an issue with it. I understand where you're coming from, MEZ, but for me, at least, like, similar to John, like, I don't have a problem with guys going out there and competing. It's what they want to do. Like, they have every right to do it. And I don't think that really matters in terms of, 10-year vet, 5-year vet, 20-year vet, or rookie. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if, at the same time, if teams or managers are calling up Mark DeRosa and being like, hey, make sure you use Clayton Kershaw a lot. Like, make sure he gets his innings. Don't worry so much about our guys. Let's just make sure that the guy who's retired, he gets plenty of throw. He gets and Kershaw has come out and said, like, look, I will throw as much as you want me to. It's not going to be good, but I will throw as much as you want me to. And I'm sure he'll get his fair share.
Yeah, and I think that's a cool little wrinkle too, where, like, guys are retired and they can still take part and, all that stuff. I
saw Ruben Tejada's play. I didn't know he was still playing baseball.
Dude, Ruben Tejada is younger than both of us, which seems wrong.
That seems wild to even say. I feel like he's been around forever.
Didn't he come up with the Mets when he was like 19 or 20 though?
He was young. Yeah. But that's crazy.
He was like 20 years old. Shout out to you for posting this. 24 in here on YouTube. Only 10 likes. So go ahead and smash the like button. Let's reach more Mets fans. Help us out. Help the algorithm. A couple more really just fluke ones. Joe Kelly in 2019, as Armand is posting. While with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he suffered a back injury after spending 5 hours cooking crawfish, leading to a no cooking clause jokingly imposed by his manager.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help that these things happen to baseball players in terms of like when people question baseball players as athletes because these crazy things happen and they get hurt. But like either way, it's still funny. Like no one wants to see anybody get hurt, but stuff like this does crack you up a little bit.
Armand saying in 2014, Jake Peavy almost cut off his finger with a knife while opening fish gear. Oh, another good one from GSD over on Twitter. Left an ice pack on the foot too long. Ricky Henderson.
20 on, 20 off. Come on, man. 20 on,
20 on, 20 off. That's the rule, man. That is the rule. Abide by the rule. This one actually, probably the least funny one, Ibby, Dustin May suffered a major injury involving vegetables in July 2024. He tore his esophagus while eating a salad, an injury described as a complete freak accident that required emergency surgery.
That's
Dustin
just
May
wild.
Dude, he almost died because
wild.
of like the the kind of like tear that he caused in his esophagus. It was wild. Like, oh my, what? That's like one of those, that's like Final Destination shit.
Yeah, that's just insane.
I don't even like that one. I got to take that one off the screen just for vibes. Lazy Mary saying, I bet Francisco Alvarez eats packing peanuts. And that
one popped me. That was a good one.
It's funny. I'm going to need, you know what? I don't want more elaboration. We'll just keep it at that. More elaboration might ruin the joke. So that's funny enough. Leave it as it is. Here's what I teased earlier from Julian saying, hey boys, second time listener, second time caller.
Welcome.
I just put $3,000 on the Blue Jays and the Mets in the World Series. Thoughts? My initial thought is must be nice to be able to throw $3,000 on something. Something like that.
Yeah, seriously.
But good on you. Ibby, I think that's, I don't know what the return would be and all that stuff. And we're not like a show that gets into betting odds really all that often.
Nope.
If you do that, do it responsibly, whatever the case is.
Always.
But I think, I think Mets Blue Jay, again, I don't know what the payout would be if he's right on this, but Mets Blue Jays is as good of a quote unquote bet as any kind of two-team matchup, right? I mean, if you look at like early season projections of where teams are supposed to be. So I don't think it's terrible as long as again, you can afford to lose that money in case it's wrong, because it is a hard bet.
Yeah, I don't think it's terrible. And I think obviously if you're putting in a bet for something that doesn't involve the Dodgers, you're going to get better returns in terms of odds. So Toronto, New York, that'd be awesome. I would love to see it. I'll be rooting for it. I mean, in general, I'm rooting for my team to get there. I don't care who they're facing. I just want them to get there. But yeah, I think it's a fine bet. And hopefully our Mets can meet Julian's Blue Jays in that final dance. That'd be awesome.
I've got a bit of a hot take, and I know we try to stay away from hot takes here.
Ooh, hot take.
I just don't know how to describe it.
As long as it's within reason, there's nothing wrong with a hot take.
No, okay. I think it's a real, like it's true in the spirit of hot takes, not what hot takes have become. Now, if you told me the only way the Mets could reach the World Series, like right now on March 4th, somebody said the only way the Mets will get to the World Series is if it's versus the Blue Jays and then come what may, I would sign for that because I would like to see the Mets in the World Series. However, I don't want, if I could pick, I wouldn't want the Mets to play the Blue Jays in the World Series. And the reason is the last time the Mets went to the World Series, they played a team that went to the World Series and narrowly lost the World Series. And because that team had a better just knowledge of what it takes to win, that team beat the Mets in the World Series in 2015.
That team was also blue and white. That team was also blue and white.
I just don't.
A lot of similarities there.
So I don't know if that qualifies.
Bad vibes.
Yeah, I don't know if that qualifies as a hot take. I don't want that. If I had to pick, I would not want that. Armand saying Ruben Tejada made his MLB debut for the Mets April 7, 2010 at 20 years old. So yes, he was 20 years old. Lazy Perry. If you ask Terry Collins, he'll tell you a story about Justin Turner breaking his dick in 2010. I swear to God,
I did see that somewhere. I did see that. Yeah.
I've seen that, and I don't recall exactly.
That'd be funny.
Of course, non-Generian Cespedes and the Boar issue. I mean,
of course, another one, hilarious one. Yeah, for the Mets in general. Yeah, that's a good one.
I can't believe it. Joe DeMayo elaborating. He might have been here at the beginning and then gone when we talked about this. Yeah. Joel Zumaya injured his wrist and his forearm from excessive Guitar Hero. So it wasn't his finger, like the other commenter had said. It was his wrist and forearm, which is worse if you're a pitcher. Obviously, you don't want to be screwing up that pitching forearm, which is usually a precursor to a Tommy John injury, right? Anyway.
But again, you got to be doing that like at an extreme, like you're obsessed if you're playing the game that much. Like that's nuts. That's Kyler Murray playing Call of Duty. Like that's.
I can't imagine being into anything that much.
Like that's crazy.
You got
video put game.
You know. Yeah, but you got to put it down, right? What? Like we talk a lot on this show. Like we're both huge baseball fans. We're both huge Mets fans. We do a show once a week, pretty much throughout the entire year, whether baseball's on or not, that is dedicated to not only our love of baseball and specifically the Mets, but for the consumption of other people who theoretically love the Mets as much or more than we do, right? And even with all of that, we have said stuff on this show like, hey, sometimes you need to walk away from baseball for your own mental health, no matter how much you love watching the game, no matter how much you love watching the Mets. There was a lot of times last year where it was nothing but frustrating and you knew they weren't going to come back. And I'm not going to blame you if you're like, you know what? Honestly, I turned off the game in the 5th inning because I was tired and I just couldn't get through it. I'm not going to be like, you're a bad fan. Like sometimes you need to walk away. Yeah. And I say that because sometimes, even if it's your hobby, like even if playing guitar or playing video games is your favorite thing, and I'm a bit of a binge gamer. Like I don't play games all the time. I wouldn't consider myself a gamer, but I usually have one modern system. I've got a PS5. If a game comes out that I'm really excited for, I usually play it early. I usually play it often. I usually, beat it if it's a narrative game. And that can be like, over a week or two, I'm playing that game a lot. And then I don't play it again. And I might not pick up a video game for, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Over that time, I think it's wild if you're sitting there just like playing Call of Duty, or in this case, playing Guitar Hero till your fucking arm literally falls off.
It's just insane the amount of time that some people put in on some of like these open world games, and they're beating it, as soon as the game comes out or what have you. I know you were tweeting some stuff, earlier in the week about. I know Resident Evil came out and people were like, if you beat this game already, like. Obviously, I know what type of person that it is, like what's going on. Like all in all, like if you're playing that much, just relax. And if you are a athlete, you need to take care of yourself. Again, make sure you're keeping your wrists and your forearms intact. But unfortunately for Joel Zumaya, he flew too close to the sun.
Julian saying, John, ball, and then following it up by saying, you guys both do, which is nice.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you tuning in as a fan of the Blue Jays too.
And if you are truly, as I saw in the comments, Julian, if you are truly a Falcons fan, welcome. I am too. And God bless you, because they're terrible.
Lazy Mary saying Red Dead Redemption 2, greatest game of all time. That would be hard to argue with. I know other people, it's up there. It's
never played it. Always wanted to. Never played any of the Red Deads. Like I heard it always looked interesting to me, but I never get a chance to play games.
Truly an amazing game. Again, I'm not a huge gamer. I'm not like I've not played every single thing like, under the sun that people would. What's the other, like I've never played any Final Fantasy game, and I know some of those people would put like in very high acclaim. There's certain things like they're not interesting to me, or I'm not going to play certain types of games. But yeah, I have played Red Dead Redemption 2. That game still looks incredible. Still, like everything about it it's truly one of the best games ever made. Joe DeMayo saying John's going to torch his fingers playing WWE 2K26. I did tweet a little bit about WWE 2K26 earlier today. I did go out and I splurged for the highest edition and early access. So I'll be able to play that game on Monday. So I talked about, or excuse me, on Friday. So I talked about not being a gamer, but there you go. That's a little insight into my world. I will be playing WWE.
God bless you, John, for the WWE and TKO charging you $4,000 to play that game and all that goes with it. But that's a story for another day. Let's try to get back on track here. Let's talk some Mets.
All right. Well, here, let's bridge the gap this way, which I think is kind of fun. Joe DeMeo, because it goes from games to wrestling to Mets, and then we can get back into the Mets in earnest.
Fair enough.
Joe DeMeo, who obviously great show, Mets pod. Him and Connor do a great job. Friend of the show, not quite in the opening credits of our show yet, but maybe at some point Joe will be in the opening credits of our show.
It has to happen. It has
Joe,
to.
friend of the show, but also really good wrestling fan. And he's asking both of us, which one of the Mets enemies would you have Danhousen curse if you could pick one player? Maybe I'll let you go first.
That's a tough one. Because this team always gets crushed by the players that you don't expect. Do you attack a superstar? I got mine. And I think a lot of Mets fans would agree with me. If I could get Danhousen to curse one player that is an enemy of the New York Mets, it is the one and only Freddie Freeman. That's it. It's Freddie Freeman. He always kills the Mets. That's the guy. There's always going to be someone that kills the Mets. Enters random Marlin here, but there's always going to be someone. But if I had to pick one person, Freddie Freeman.
That's a good one. That is such a good one. Because
that's past trauma and future trauma. That's the guy, I think.
Yeah, Julian saying needs to curse Ohtani just cause. And then saying Freddie Freeman, no, with the Canadian flag. Lazy Mary is kind of going with me on this because Chase Utley, I don't give a fuck that he's retired.
That's a good one.
That's a good one because I was thinking the same thing. I was actually going to say Chipper Jones, retroactively.
Oh, okay.
Man,
retroactively, I would go. It's either Utley or Rollins for me. Probably Rollins. I hate Rollins.
I don't know. Curse him all the way to the grave. I don't know that there is currently a player that is a quote unquote enemy of the Mets that deserves the curse, the Danhousen curse, as much as some of these past guys, Utley, Chipper Jones, any of the Braves pitchers, Jimmy Rollins,
Pat Burrell.
Oh my God, dude. Pat Burrell. Chrissy saying, Bryce Harper, that raw milk drinker. Shout out Keith saying, send Danhousen to curse Heyman. I think he means John Heyman, not Paul Heyman. Lazy Mary, Danhousen has already cursed Rosie saying Ronald Acuna Jr.
That's
Ronald
a good
Acuna Jr. has already been cursed.
I think he might be cursed.
He's already done. I can't. Oh my God, dude, this is a good one. Mets cast. You've been cursed. Joe, what a good question.
That's really a good question from Joe. Good stuff, man.
Pulling up some amazing, interesting, wild. Oh my God, Keith.
Keith's coming out swinging.
Wardy's second team.
Keith is swinging today, man.
Honestly, shout out Wardy, who's been on our show a couple times. Wardy's a good dude.
Good dude, yeah.
He's got this gig now with the Post and Straight Outta Flushing with Dexter Henry, who's also been on our show, and we've each been on Straight Outta Flushing. So, good, shout out to both of them. But it was really funny with the discourse of just Wardy talking about having a second team and just so funny. The O's have always been a second team. It's just a very funny take on that. And I do I do really, really appreciate that. Lazy Mary saying the mustache on that Metcast dude is a curse in and of itself. I can't, dude. We're not going to be able to pick a crowd comment today. I mean, there's too many.
No, I don't, there's too many. There's too many good ones.
There's too many. I don't even know if I can read this one out loud, but I just put it on the screen.
That's a go-to for lazy. That's a go-to.
Okay. Shout out Keith. He's going live. Great show, boys. Hope you have a great show, Keith. Thank you for popping in.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate you, brother.
Ibby, we said we were going to talk about Mets baseball at some point. Let's bring it back full circle. I think this is a good topic to end the first half on because it still has to do with the other side of things as it relates to Nolan Mclean, which was the way this whole conversation started. And that is with the Mets naming Freddy Peralta their opening day starter. I don't believe you and I have not done a show together since that's happened.
Right.
I don't remember if it happened before last week's show and I wasn't here. But it just seems to me like it's sort of the no-brainer. You go out, you acquire somebody to be your ace. This is a guy who has pitched 2 opening days prior. Ironically enough, both coming in New York, one against the Mets, one against the Yankees. So this will be Freddy Peralta's 3rd opening day start, all coming in the city of New York, which, yes, is very meant to be. Also, look, Nolan Mclean might be great. He might be the best pitcher on the Mets when the season's over. He might be the future ace of the Mets, whatever. There's no reason to put that pressure on him now. Give it to the guy who's been there, done that. That's Freddy Peralta. It's what you acquired him to do. So I have no problem with this, and I have no problem with them announcing it early, especially because Peralta's not pitching in the WBC, and McClain is leaving. And so you can kind of get a look at Peralta throughout the entire spring if you're the Mets, and then you go the way that you want. And also, you don't have to line up Nolan Mclean against Paul Skeens. I know that's a marquee matchup that people want to see on opening day. I don't care, man. Again, I'm okay with.
So is Peralta, though. It's a marquee matchup.
I agree, and I'm also okay with. Look, we talked about him being able to live up to the pressure. That's McClain. I'm also okay with taking a little bit of pressure off a young guy too. Like to me, I think Peralta was the pick easily.
And I think also like you can look at things and say you can run out Peralta against Skeens. And you hope that you do enough hitting that day. You hope that you're the last one to score against someone like Skeens, who's obviously one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in the game. But then if you squeak one out there, now guess what? Now you got Nolan Mclean going up against, a younger pitcher in Bubba Chandler, or maybe it's Mitch Keller, like however they decide on going out about their rotation, like kind of gives you an upper hand. Then which is why it's great having 2 arms like this at the top end, which is why we said it was such a need for this team, just in order to acquire stoppers, which this team really lacked last year. That's just why it spiraled the way that it did. But I have no issue at all. I'm not one of these people that want to go out there and scream about, it's like you're taking the guy that you acquired and making him the opening day. Well, you should let the kid who you've grown. Like I don't care about that stuff. I'm with you. Sometimes you don't have to, even though I think he can handle it. I don't think you have to put unneeded stuff on someone in the early going, especially coming off of the high, if you will, of potentially pitching, let's say, in the WBC final, however that goes, and then coming in and ramping back up again, like for a start like that to be the home opener for his Mets. But like, I don't care. It's not a big deal. I'm all for Freddy Peralta. Like I've said on the show, I said that I predicted that he would be the opening day starter. He is the opening day starter. It makes all the sense in the world. I'm about it. And hopefully it's something that can happen for this team for years to come. But that's a conversation that we can get into now, or we can wait till after the break.
Yeah, look, Tony HVAC says it exactly as you were saying it. I'm sure McClain will pitch plenty of other opening days. There's that, Ibby. And also, we talked about it with regard to this roster as a whole. Opening day is important to fans. Opening day is a celebration. Opening day is an unofficial national holiday for everybody who's a baseball fan. If you live anywhere where there's cold weather, which obviously in this country, most baseball cities are cold weather or experience some kind of cold weather, truly like a true winter. You kind of look forward to the summer, and opening day is the gateway to that. But for baseball teams, and the players therein. It's one day. And I know it is an honor for these guys to be named the opening day starter, so I also don't want to minimize that for a pitcher, but it's just one game, man. It's just one game. It's just one day. There's 161 more of them. You got to win more of them than you lose. You got to get into the dance. So to me, I just, look, I'm going to watch, and that's the other part of it. We're all going to watch opening day no matter who it is. Right?
Doesn't matter.
And I'm not jumping on this guy because he's hurt and he's done some good things for us in the past, as Mets fans. But there were, I believe, 2 separate instances where Mets fans thought we were getting a Jacob deGrom opening day and we got a Tyler McGill opening day twice.
Twice.
Did you not watch it because Tyler McGill pitched? And honestly, Tyler McGill's the best he's ever been is pitching in the end of March and all of April. Those are always his best times. So it's not going to stop you from watching it. It's not going to deter you in any way. So, to me, I think you just move on. He'll pitch the second game. It is what it is. What it is. I think we can head into the break. Honestly, Ibby, we've been going for about an hour. Good timing. We will just reset a little bit, get back into the Mets conversation. Plenty of stuff to talk about with Luis Robert, with Lindor, now fielding, throwing, probably going to start hitting if he hasn't already. Tobias Myers looking really good. Christian Scott looking really good. The battle for the right field job, plenty of things to get into, and we will do that after the break. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, live on Substack. We will be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, live on Substack, like we are each and every single week. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez here with you once again. If you missed the top of the show, I apologize for not being here last week, not only for the show, but for Walk Off Whiskey on Friday. I had a lot of things going on in my personal life and just had to take care of some things. Was super, super, super busy. But this show so far has been a ton of fun, and I am thrilled to be back, not only alongside Ibby, but all of you in the comments as well. Speaking of the live comments, watching the show live, whether on YouTube or on Twitter, is the best way to become a full-fledged participant in the show, because your questions, your comments, your concerns, your heckles, your jokes, which have become a huge part of the show as well, and we love that, are all seen in real time. We could see them, we could react to them. And just like Joe DeMayo's Danhousen question earlier, it can take the show in a direction that maybe we didn't even expect the show was going to go. And I think that's the beauty of what Ibby and I do here at Til Mets Do Us Part. And that's thanks in large part to a lot of you guys compared to some of the other Mets shows out there. And there's so many great ones and so many that we collaborate with, and everybody does an amazing job. But it's a little fun wrinkle that we have here over at Til Mets Do Us Part. That said, if you miss any of the show, you can go back and you can watch it once we are done with the live stream on the YouTube channel, on our Twitter, or on our Substack, where you should subscribe if you haven't already to those specifically on YouTube and Substack, so you get a little bit of extra content there. And if you can't do any of that, this will drop as an audio podcast later on tonight, wherever it is you get your podcast. Don't forget, we've got super chats, we've got super likes, and all those super things that you can do to show support to the show as well. So, Ibby, before we get back into the conversation, let's hit him with a quick word from our friends over at Independent Safes.
Absolutely, John. IndependentSafes.com. Independent Safes are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit IndependentSafes.com today for security that stands strong. And you know what that means. It means it is time for our favorite segment of the week, where we put someone or somebody or multiple people or entire teams or entire newspapers into the safe, and we throw away the key. And this week, who do I want to throw into the safe? Well, there's a couple of ways I can go about this. I could throw out the I'll stick with the chalk because it's the easy one. And it is annoying. But at this point, I feel bad. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel bad for this because it's showing you how pathetic some things are really getting. The fact that we still get people pushing things out there about players that are no longer here. I don't even want to say the names because I don't think I have to, because I think everyone in here already knows what I'm talking about. But we're constantly and still getting updates and stories about last year, about players that are no longer here, about what they're doing now and how things could have been different, and blah, 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 blah. The New York Post, I am putting you into the safe yet again for who knows the umpteenth time this offseason, into the safe, because at this point, it's sad. It's pathetic. Like there's plenty of going, like we said at the top of the show, there is plenty going on with this team that is interesting to put out there. And as I say that, I'm just remembering that they also put out another story that was talking about, Carson Benge, great topic to cover, but they're talking about how he is going up against the grain because he's not someone that's great when it comes to exit velocities, even though his stats say the complete opposite of that. So I don't know where that story was coming from, or
they just make up. You just say whatever you want now. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't make any sense, but it's like, here's your shot. You finally take it on something that actually matters and you completely foobar it. Like, I don't know what the hell attempt that was, but in general, we're still talking about things that don't matter anymore. Nobody cares. I'm still seeing people that are on the beat for this team retweeting stuff from players that are going on from other teams covering said team. Like, that's their job. It's no longer your job. I know why you're doing this. John knows why you're doing this. Everyone in this chat knows why you're doing this, because you want to elicit a response that is of the negative sense to drum up whatever nonsense you're going to put out next to try to bring eyes to it. It's pathetic, but really it's overall sad. So the New York Post, once again, you are in the safe for me. I'm locking it, throwing away the key, and tossing it into the deep, deep ocean.
Before I give mine, Ethan saying, you are safe for now, David Peterson, from the safe. So we know that Ethan's wanted David Peterson in the safe a lot, but right now, no good for David Peterson, or good for David Peterson because he's not going to the safe. Ruben saying, John, not sure if this is coming through, probably in reaction to things not working, comments and all that stuff from the last couple weeks. But Ruben, see you, hear you. Welcome back.
We got you, Ruben.
We got you. Over on Twitter, Chrissy saying, don't worry, David Peterson can be. Ibby, okay. This might get us in a little trouble. My safe pick.
Oh boy.
Get us in a little trouble.
Oh boy. Careful here. What do you got?
I am putting Aaron Judge in the safe.
Whoa. Okay.
That's right.
I know where this is going, but go ahead. I'll allow
Aaron
it.
Judge
I'll allow it.
Is the best all-around player in baseball. He's the Yankee captain. He's probably the de facto captain of Team USA, whether he was named that or not, or whatever, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's the MLB The Show 26 cover athlete, if I remember correct.
Yes. Is he the first two-time, I think, or whatever it may be?
He might be the first two-time cover athlete for that video game. He basically told the Yankees in the negotiations for the contract that he's on that part of what he wanted was to be the captain of the Yankees, to come back. Again, he wanted to be the captain.
That's something you should ask for, but
it's not something you should ask for, but we didn't talk about it at the time because I don't care about what the Yankees do. For
this a team with that
much, it's not a Yankee show. I'll say this, for a team with that much legacy, they have too many retired numbers. For a team with that much legacy, they name captains like delis name sandwiches after people. It's absurd. But Aaron Judge is great. He's a great baseball player, and he's deserving of a lot of things.
Yes.
He's an absolute terrific baseball player. He probably should be the captain of the Yankees based on ability alone.
Yeah.
His ability to give a speech, however,
Ooh.
is not captain-like. That was on par with some of the worst best man speeches I've ever seen from some of the least interesting wedding receptions I've ever been to. I felt like he was giving that speech in the lobby of a La Quinta. I felt like he was giving that speech at a bowling alley. I felt like he was giving that speech to a group of little leaguers begrudgingly as they're about to embark on their championship game at a Chuck E. fucking Cheese. It was the saddest speech I have ever heard given by an elite athlete, and it was made worse that it was to a group of, when I say his peers, I mean his peers. I don't just mean Major League Baseball players who are in and of itself elite athletes. Bobby Witt Jr. was in that room, and Bryce Harper was in that room, and Paul Skeens, and Tarek Skubal, and all of these amazing baseball players were in that room. And this guy gets up and he gives the most ho-hum, uninspired, smirking through it speech. And I've seen some things where it's like, okay, they kind of goaded him into do it, and it's it was more for the media than anything else. Well, then if
I could see that,
if that was for the media, then don't fucking put it out there, man. That was brutal.
You know what?
So brutal. It made me cringe. It was like watching bad open mic stand-up, of which I have seen and sat through a lot.
You know what gives it away when stuff like that happens? When anyone is like, whenever it's like public speaking or talking in front of people in general, like watching the hands and, like you said, like the facial expressions, like when you get a lot of the, like you were getting a lot of this, like just putting stuff together, just like trying to say things and just like thinking as he's talking, like clearly it wasn't something that was prepared. And I think you might have tweeted this or whatever, but like, to just add on to it, like, you can be fantastic. You can be an incredible ball player. You can lead by example. Some people just aren't meant to do those things, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't force someone to do that because you think because you are the anointed captain or you wear the C or whatever, that you have to be this, Ray Lewis level of leader and speaker and motivator and like pump everyone up. Like, not everybody is that. And that's okay. It's just like, it came across very, very forced, like you said, very blah, and just, it wasn't it. And like, I don't think it was fair to judge. I know people are like making fun of him in the comments here, but like, he's an incredible ball player. I have no issues with the guy. But I just think that it made him look bad. And I think that was wrong on the whoever thought that it was a good idea, like on their part.
Yeah, I guess that's my thing again. Like, I'm really not, like, I think Aaron Judge is a fantastic baseball player. And also, if I didn't think that, who would care? Because Aaron Judge is objectively a fantastic baseball player, right?
Yeah.
So my opinion about him is irrelevant to him and to anyone else. But it was just so bad. Like, I would rather hear a rally speech from Charlie Chaplin than from this dude. It was so bad. And again, whether the excuse was they were doing it for PR, then you know what, guys? Let's take it from the top and put out a different one. And I'm sorry to all the athletes,
maybe they went Bill O'Reilly,
millions of dollars that have to sit through a second take of Aaron Judge trying to pump up a room full of people. But my God, it was the opposite of inspiring. It made him look, it did something that is almost impossible to do, which is make Aaron Judge look small. And I mean small in every sense of the word.
That's a good way to put it. I'm also upset that you kind of buried La Quinta there. Like, you buried La Quinta Suite.
La Quinta's it's not a bad.
They're not bad. I stayed there once.
Bad.
They're not that bad. They're not bad.
I've stayed in some La Quintas, and you know what? I shouldn't have come at them like that. I stayed at some pretty good La Quintas. But you know what? It'd be like, let's be honest. Like, La Quintas are fine. Like, they exist, right? Like, you're not gonna get you're not like excited. Like when I used to travel for work,
Mhm.
sometimes we'd stay at La Quinta's. You're not going to get excited about staying at one, but you're also not going to be disappointed staying at one.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what that speech was like. You're not getting excited to play alongside Aaron Judge. I mean, you're not upset because he's still Aaron Judge, but you're like, oh, okay. All right. I mean, this guy just gave like the Olive Garden of speeches, but that's cool. I'm just trying to do this one segment to make sure we never get sponsored by anyone.
Yeah, like what are we doing here?
Oh man. But of course we
could have had endless breadsticks. I mean, what do? You're killing us here, man.
We could have, but you know what? We are sponsored as we throw away the key.
Oh man.
Brought to you, of course, by our friends over at Independence Safes. Back into the conversation about our New York Mets. I really think this is great. Joe DeMeo, Aaron La Quinta Judge could be his nickname. Yeah, I just Julian saying, I just watched it. LOL. It was bad. Holy. Yeah, it's just not great.
Yeah.
Anyway, Maybe I know that we can talk about some of the pitchers, Christian Scott, some other things, Tobias Myers, but we spent a lot of time talking about pitching in general.
Mhm.
And I think we do have to give some due to Carson Benge and this battle for right field.
Mhm.
There seems to be this thought process that I have noticed among Mets content creators, where a lot of people that I have seen are saying that they are still unsure or leaning to the fact that Benge won't make this team on opening day. And I find that to be a little confusing because I just think the runway is clear for him to make the team. It has been since the very start of the offseason. And all he has to do is do it now. And in this small sampling that we have seen early on in spring training, the early returns are very good. And so even the competition that was brought in for Benge, as far as a starting right fielder is concerned, they have outs with it, right? Like Tauchman was a great signing on a minor league invite. Well, Tauchman can still be on your bench if Benge makes the team as your starting right fielder.
Split as a DH. Yeah, there's different ways.
MJ Melendez has been a really good pickup with this, kind of low floor, high ceiling swing. Well, he's on a split contract and he has a minor league option. So if you're just talking about those three players who have so far performed the best, Benge and Tauchman can both be on the team and MJ Melendez can be in AAA in case of emergency. So to me, I agree with Ethan. I think it's Benge's job to lose. I think a lot of people have said, oh, I don't think he's going to make it because just they don't have to. So why would they? Why put the pressure on him? There's not going to be a lot of pressure on him. Just, hey, go out there, play defense, hit 8th or 9th. To me, I don't see this thought process that he's not going to make the team, at least as of, March 4th, that it doesn't look like he's going to make it. I think he's going to make the team.
We talked about it a lot in depth last week, myself and Gab, and I'm not changing anything that I said. I really believe that this is his job to lose. I think that everything is there for him, like you just said, and the more that he speaks, I know he was on Foul Territory today and talking about how a lot of the guys are taking him under their wing, showing him the way. It really came across as though he knows he's going to be here. He's taking everything in. And I know someone could say, well, he can be here in 2 to 3 weeks after opening day. It's like, yeah, I get that. But I really think that the way he's performing as a hitter, what he's done in the field, whether it's showing off the arm, the range, the glove, the fact that they moved Soto to left field, the fact that Tauchman was something that came in after the fact, not something that was preemptive prior to moving Soto to left field. Like, I just think it makes way too much sense to let the kid run with it. And I feel that it makes too much. It's too much. Yeah, it makes too much sense.
They also didn't get a guy to compete with him that they would then be more indebted to, right? Like, I don't mean a superstar player, right? Like, it's not like they made a big signing. But like, they didn't go trade for like Lars Nootbaar either, who you would say, okay, well, this guy, I mean, if he's healthy and he's back to the way that he was, like, he should probably be your starter, right? Like, Tauchman is a step below even a guy like Nootbaar, at least in the maybe not as a ball player, like maybe not truly, but I think in the way it's perceived, you would have like, oh, well, Lars Nootbaar is the preemptive starter. Like, he's the guy you would think of that's going to start in right field or whatever the case may be, left field if they don't move Soto. Whereas Melendez and Tauchman, with respect to their careers, and to a lesser extent, Tyrone Taylor and even Jared Young, like, these are not guys that you're like, oh, yeah, they should really start over Benge. So I just think, like you said, they've given him all the runway in the world to get that job and to not look back. And Ibby, and I shout out to Joe DeMeo and Connor. I was listening to their show earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could call him up in a couple weeks, but like, my question would be why? Because you could also just send him down in May or June if he's that bad. Like, to me, and this is what I think Joe was saying, like, you got to ride the wave with these guys.
Agreed.
At some point. So why not just ride it out of the gate? Like, there's enough star power on this team to just have Benge. And again, you've opened up the door where his best position that he's played since college is right field. He's going to be a plus defender out there. So if nothing else, you're getting an everyday plus defender. And on the days that he doesn't play out there, you could pivot to Tyrone Taylor or Mike Tauchman if they both make the team. Neither one of those guys is obviously, Taylor's great with the glove, and Tauchman is not nearly as good, but he's not going to embarrass you out there.
He's adequate. He's fine.
Yeah, I don't see this fascination with like sending him down. Like, just put him on the team and see what happens. You could always send him down later. It doesn't mean you're going to ruin him.
Yeah, I think that's where everyone automatically jumps. They think that by having him there and pumping him up that much and saying he's the guy and then sending him down, like, kills this confidence of a player. I'm with you, and I'm with Joe, where it's like, you ride this wave. And do I think 2 or 3 weeks of AAA at bats are really going to make that much of a difference? I don't. I really don't. I would much rather him be here, hit in the bottom half of the lineup, work his way up, because I do think that there is a world where he eventually finds his groove, and he's someone that's more so in the middle half of the lineup as opposed to the back end of the lineup, because I do think he's that good of a hitter. And everything, the way he carries himself, similar to that of McLean, it's just like he knows he's going to be here. And I think that confidence truly carries, and it's something that we haven't really had in a long time when it comes to some of the guys that we have called up, because it's been more deer in the headlights as opposed to, full-blown confidence that they can do this. McLean has shown that he can, and it will continue to, and I feel the same with Benge. So I do think he should be here, ride the wave, let him start, and let's go.
Carson makes a good point too. Benge is the first Stearns pick as a Met. He's motivated to have him up here coming straight out of the college level. I do think there's truth to that. I also think, and again, it's fresh in my mind, so I don't mean to just keep pulling from it, but I listened to it earlier today, and Joe was in the comments. I think another thing you have to take into consideration, and him and Connor talked about it too on the Mets pod last year. What was the criticism, Ibby, for David Stearns?
Hey,
Too slow on the trigger,
too
right?
Slow.
Where was Nolan Mclean in July when the Mets had 2 healthy starting pitchers on the roster and were throwing bullpen games against really bad teams? He was dominating in Syracuse. Jonah Tong dominating in Double-A. Brandon Sproat having his resurgence as a number one, a top tier prospect in Triple-A. They didn't pull the trigger. Pull the trigger now. Like, and shout out, Joe. You can always pull from the Mets pod. We love the love. And it's a testament. Like, you guys know, like, me and Joe always joke around with each other, but like, I love the work that they do. They do great work, and it's a good listen, and but it's the truth. It's something I wanted to bring up anyway. And so when I heard them say it, I'm like, sometimes I'll listen to other shows, whether it's them or Mets Weekly or Subway to Shea or whomever else it is. Yeah. And I'll like, somebody will say something out loud, or somebody will say something out loud by myself at home. I'll be like, yes, That's what I'm saying.
I did the same thing.
And
Driving to work,
that's
same thing. Yep.
That's how I feel about this. When they were talking about it, I'm like, yes. Like,
Yeah,
wasn't that your criticism last year of this man? And so don't you want to see the pivot? If you believe he's ready, let him cook.
Yeah, and I think we had talked about that like weeks ago, and I had mentioned to you, I was like, I do believe that something like that can be, his overall thought process, that being Stearns, because I don't want to say he's acting as though he's letting others dictate what his plan should or should not be. But I think when you have a player that's performing, there's no reason to, like, you saw how it affected you last year. You can take that and say, okay, this guy, for everyone that wants to attack the AAA numbers and say that they weren't good, everything under the hood says, no, this guy hit into some bad luck. He was ripping the ball, ripping the cover off the ball. There's no reason to think that he can't carry this over. He got his looks. He's ready. He comes into spring. He looks ready. Like, everything keeps on. I don't think he's going to roll over just because they bring in these different names. I think that they were brought in to keep the pressure there, to see how he handles it, because New York, as you know, no matter what, is a pressure cooker. So let's throw him up against, another veteran that has done this, that makes sense. That's a lefty that can play right field, that's played in New York. Like, all these things, like, how do you handle yourself now? And, we talked about it last week. Tauchman has a great at-bat, smacks it through on homer. Next game, Benge comes out, 3 hits. Comes out today, plays great defense, hits a home run. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere, and I don't think he's going to let go to this opportunity. I really don't.
Yeah, look, and Blast Radio says, didn't Benge go yard today? Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And Carson answering very specifically, Benge smacked a high and tight fastball, 350 to the opposite field today. I'll add lefty on lefty.
Lefty on lefty,
That's not something you see often. That bat can learn as he goes in the 9-hole. And I think that last sentence, Ibby, is what I'm talking about. These young guys, look no further than the 3 who are currently on the Mets: Beatty, Vientos, Alvarez. This is not to talk about any of them and my feelings or your feelings on them. The bottom line is, all 3 of them, different type of prospects when they were coming up. Alvarez, one of the top in the sport, the top catching prospect in the sport. Beatty, extremely highly touted. Vientos, a little less so, although there were things about his bat that maybe would play, or at least as a prospect you think might play better than both of those other guys. And they've both had ups and downs, fits and starts. I joked, and I got so much flack for it, and I leaned into it and whatever, about all of the opportunities Beatty has had at the major league level. I mean, parts of 4 seasons. And only last year did he really scratch the surface of what he could do offensively. You're going to have ups and downs. Not everybody who comes up and hits and stays and does everything immediately right out of the gate. And so, and sometimes elite players get sent down. I'm pretty sure, I don't know this to be true, but I think, didn't Mickey Mantle get sent back down after he was called up?
That I don't know, but
I don't know how far back. I do know that Keith Hernandez did as a young player with the Cardinals, because he's talked about it. So the bat can learn. Let the defense is already going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a modern as opposed to Mantle. I people could check me on this one, but he wasn't sent back down. But like, when Mike Trout was initially called up, like, he wasn't very good. Like, there's a little bit of an adjustment period, which is normal. Not everyone starts right away and just rips the cover off the ball. Sometimes it takes a small learning curve, because again, the major leagues is a different animal as opposed to AAA, especially when it comes to velocity and how the ball moves and stuff like that, and how the game is played and how you carry yourself. But like, I think he's going to be fine. Like, there might be some hiccups in the beginning, but I think he's going to be fine. Run with it. Let him play.
I completely agree. And I also think, again, you did not supplement him or provide competition in a way, not only that one of these guys would be like, you kind of should start that guy. Like, not only do you don't have that sentiment, but maybe, again, contractually, you don't have that situation. Look, would it be a bummer to let's say Tachman has an out in his contract, or, he doesn't have an out, but there's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge agreement with the Mets where it's like, if you're not going to get playing time, we'll trade you somewhere or whatever. You're not going to make the team, we'll trade you. Would it be a bummer to lose that guy for nothing who does some things at the major league level at a quality level? And then, Benge isn't great shakes. Yeah, that'd be a little bit of a bummer, but maybe that's not going to be the reason why the Mets succeed or fail. It's not going to be because of Mike Tachman. And again, he's a guy you can carry on the team anyway. And with MJ Melendez, you're not even going to lose any of these guys. So I don't see the issue with just giving him the runway, especially from what we've seen. And another factor, and this is not the be all end all, but he is a college bat. And generally speaking, hitters who come out of college tend to be quicker risers through the ranks because they've just played at a different level. Sometimes not. Sometimes they can't adjust to not playing with metal bats and blah, 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 blah. So obviously nothing is 100%, but this is a guy who just seems like he's primed for it.
And we've also,
I'm sorry.
I just want to say one thing real quick. Like, we've also talked about this at length, but like, this team has done a good job of adding a lot more floor to this lineup throughout the 1 through 9. So I don't think there's an issue with having someone like Benge that has a much higher ceiling and much higher potential output than someone the likes of Melendez or Tachman, or if you're putting Beatty out there. Like, that in itself, from a defensive standpoint, like, I don't agree with, and I've said before, I don't, but like, I think adding that ceiling, especially if it's on the back end, 7, 8, 9 area, I don't think there's a problem with that. I think it's more healthy for the lineup in general.
Armand saying, yes, Mickey Mantle was sent down to the minor leagues during his rookie season in 1951. After struggling with the New York Yankees and hitting only .260, manager Casey Stengel sent him down to AAA Kansas City, to which Lazy Mary says .260 would have gotten him an all-star nod in 2026, especially as a rookie. Absolutely. Carson says, don't go there, John. My comment section saying Mike Schmidt struggled to defend Beatty was a scary moment for my brain cells. Maybe I do want to say this. I don't want to dump on Beatty. I don't. I truly don't. But just because it's part of the conversation and just for something that you just brought up, I know I said this 2 weeks ago, the last time we did a show together. I understand Brett Beatty's role with the Mets right now. Okay. And I think it's an important one, especially once Jeff McNeil is gone. Beatty is going to play some third. He's going to play some second. He's going to play some first. He's going to DH some. I am good with all of that because he's an above average third baseman. He showed to be at least average at second base. I think he can be above average at first base. Obviously, DH doesn't matter as far as his position is concerned. They want to get his bat in the lineup. I don't even mind toying with, well, if he's really hitting, can we pop him out in the outfield for a game or two over the course of a whole season? I'm okay with that.
In a pinch.
Exactly. If you have Juan Soto, Luis Robert Jr., Carson Benge, Mike Tachman, and MJ Melendez even to choose from, and Tyrone Taylor.
Yeah.
I don't think Beatty should be seeing time in the outfield. I just don't. Unless you're at a point where, there's some injuries and he's really hitting, and then you have to, in case of emergency, break glass. I'm fine with it then. We saw Jeff McNeil in center field last year because they just had no other choice. If you have no other choice,
it's still so funny when you say it.
But I don't want it. I don't
want it either.
I don't
As
think
the
it's
guy
smart.
who likes Beatty, I don't want it at all. I know whether Keefe, I know he's not here, he's doing a show right now. But I know Keefe posted something today, which was probably semi-trolling about, Beatty being an athlete and working in the outfield and working on coming in on the ball and getting some teaching done to him about how he should handle himself out there. Look, I'm sure he can be okay, but again, I don't want him in right field where we've seen better right fielders, established outfielders struggle a little bit when it comes to right field, even beyond like Juan Soto, which we know is not the greatest defender. But I don't like the idea of him being out there really when I I know that this team has taken chances this offseason when it comes to defense, but it's within reason and it makes sense from an athletic perspective on the corners of the infield. But when we're talking about the outfield and you want to take Beatty and put him out there, I don't like it because I don't think you have to, because I think you have enough options where that doesn't have to be a thing.
Yeah, everybody else that we mentioned are all just better outfielders than Brett Beatty. And I don't even mean offensively. Like, and I know, MJ Melendez isn't going to win a Gold Glove, but like he's an outfielder. It's just
everyone we mentioned everyone we mentioned though is better than Brett Beatty as an outfielder. Every single one.
Even Mike Topman, even MJ Melendez.
They're all better. Every single one. There is no reason why he should ever really be out there unless something insane happens and you have to do it. Like there's no reason for it to be a thing. I don't see it. I don't.
Paul Bauman saying, if only the Mets, and I think Paul might be a new commenter or new-ish.
Welcome
to the show,
Paul.
If you are new, saying if only the Mets could draft an outfielder like Pete Crow Armstrong. One, I'll say with respect, you got to move on. Go ahead.
Move on, man. It's over. You got to. I was gonna say that. Move on. But PCA was just on a podcast too, saying how he's like, I don't blame the Mets. They didn't know what the hell I was. He's like, I had limited at bats. I was off of a bad shoulder. Lindor wanted to play with Javi Baez. Like Javi Baez is an established player. Like who the hell was I? Like there was like that's him saying that. So it's not as though it's like he's like F the Mets. But I was like, they did what they did. I went somewhere else. At that point, the Mets were very poor in terms of developing hitters anyway. So who knows if PCA would have even became what he's become. Like there's a lot of question marks. So it's like, just, you got to let it go. You can't assume that he was going to be the exact same player if he was here, because, if he would have been under the tutelage of Eric Chavez, he probably would have just been, pounding the ball into the ground and trying to beat it out. So like, instead of hitting 30 home runs. So let it go. It's okay.
I will say this. I do believe, and this is Paul saying, I was drafted by the Mets in 93. I'm not a fool. Nobody's saying you're a fool.
I didn't say you were a fool. Who said you're a fool?
No one's saying you're a fool. I will say this. I want to pull up that first comment again. I think in the not too distant future, other fans of other teams will be lamenting if only blank could draft an outfielder like Carson Benge. That's how good I think Carson Benge can be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think the Mets can draft. First of all, I know you're being sarcastic and tongue-in-cheek, but the Mets did draft PCA. You just alluded to the lack of development in the organization at that time for position players. All of that is true, but they did identify him. They did draft him. And then this front office, this group that I really believe in, Ibby, I do, and I know you do with Stearns and his entire brain trust. They drafted Carson Benge, and I really believe, I just think he's going to be so good. So, it's okay to move on.
It's got a hell of a swing, man. Fun watching him whip that bat through the zone.
Joe DeMeo saying, in fairness, I do blame the Mets, but then saying,
that's fine. That's fine.
But life goes
on. Life goes on. Now you got Benge, you got AJ Ewing, you got some new toys to talk about.
Shout out, Joshua, again, great graham crackers. AJ Ewing should be an insane fielder in center field.
You got plenty to talk about, Joe, and obviously you shouting out Joe because he did put out his latest top 30. If you haven't read it, make sure you do, to make sure you stay up on all your Mets minor leaguers. The top 30 is out. Fantastic read. So thank you for that, Joe. Appreciated it. But yeah, you got some new guys to talk about in the outfield.
I'm big into what AJ Ewing could be. I think AJ Ewing can be legitimate center fielder for this team. I do.
I'm still excited that I still have in our, like, where we do our work for the show, like when it comes to videos, which I'll do more during, in season. I still have my on the farm segment in our Canva, and the last one I did was talking about this little guy called AJ Ewing and what he was doing down on the farm. So I'm pumped up. I'm glad that he's had this meteoric rise, and he seems to be a hell of an outfielder, and the bat is coming along. And if he can be someone that can hit 12, 15 home runs and play the defense I think he can, and steal the bases that the people think he can, like you got something that's going to be fun to watch. That's for sure.
Carson, leaving nothing held back. Pancake Shithead, if you're not familiar, that's Eric Chavez. Pancake Shithead would have farted on PCA's pillowcase and gave him double pink eye, so he couldn't recognize a breaking ball or an off-speed pitch for his entire career.
Let your athleticism take over, Carson. You don't need your eyes. It's like Mr. Miyagi. He's like putting it around his eyes. Go swing.
I think this is a little bit of an offshoot and kind of adjacent to how we want to talk about it right now on March 4th in spring training. But I do think it's a good question overall, and it'll lead us to what will probably be our last kind of topic, which is some of the other pitchers in spring training, including guys like Tobias Myers, who are on the scroll. Julian said, where do you guys project Tong with all of your quality starters? David Peterson or Senga go to the pen if Jonah hits his potential? Ibby, I would say, I'll only speak for me, but I think it's pretty fair to say that Jonah Tong is maybe 8th on the Mets depth chart. If you take all of their current potential 6-man rotation and then add Tobias Myers as number 7, is Jonah Tong 8? He certainly could. He could be.
Might be 9.
9 behind Christian
Might be 9.
Scott.
Yeah,
right?
So, I think it's 8 or 9, depending. Yeah,
8 or 9. I would say, just off the top of my head, it's Freddy Peralta 1, Nolan Mclean 2 or 1A, whatever. Then you have Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga. That's 6. I would say Tobias Myers is 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's either Christian Scott or Jonah Tong, followed by the other one. And then the last one's number 10 is probably Jack Wenninger.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, I think that when it comes to guys like that, specifically the last 3 you just said, whether it's Tong, Scott, or Wenninger, like, I think that their potential obviously has to stem from success at the AAA level. But I do think that those back end starters for us, and I'm talking about Senga and Manaea, depending on how they do that, I think that's ultimately going to dictate where the starts come for Tong, Scott, and Wenninger. If Wenninger does get the call, I do think Tong and Scott are legit one call away. So I think that it's really going to depend on what we get out of Manaea and Senga this year. You hope that you get the best of those two, because that makes this team that much better. It means the 6-man is actually working. I mean, Senga staying healthy, and you have an embarrassment of riches that you are able to fall back on, God forbid, of an injury. But I think that those back end 2 are what's really going to dictate what happens with those 3 that we're probably going to see at the AA, AAA level for a good portion, at least of the first half of the season.
Carson saying Tong needs a whole season in AAA. He's a child, and folks need to stop plugging him into a 90s Braves rotation. Slow it down. That's fair. It's he does have the tools to be great, but he doesn't have all of the tools yet. And then Lazy Mary saying, no, Carson, he needs to be in the MLB so I can keep smoking the Tong Bong, followed by TM.
Trademarked. That is trademarked. The Tong Bong is trademarked.
Ibby, I know. Forever, you're not going to dispute this, but we'll probably get comments on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to say, I know. I, John Saponaro, understand and
I think John knows
and realize that this is not MLB The Show or fantasy baseball, and the adage that you can never have too much pitching is true. And it's probably never been truer than in modern baseball, with all of the potential injuries and things that can go awry, like we talked about kind of near the top of the show.
Agreed.
But I can see a situation, not because of Jonah Tong specifically, not even because of Christian Scott or whatever the case may be, because of the 10 names that I mentioned on the Mets starting pitching depth chart, that it also includes Tobias Myers, who has looked great so far in spring training.
Yeah, comfortable, man. Yeah.
I could see a situation where before the season starts, maybe the Mets do make a trade. I don't know for who, and I don't know of whom they unload. But there was a lot of whispers. There's a lot of smoke. There was a lot of, are we shopping Kodai Senga? Are we shopping David Peterson? You know, I don't think you could really trade Sean Manaea because of the money that he makes. But I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not even saying it should happen. I'm just saying it could happen. I really don't want to force a guy like Tobias Myers into a bullpen role that I think he'd be great at, in fairness. If you think that he is even the 6th best starter on your team, you know what I mean? Like if you come out of spring training or you're near the end of spring training and you're David Stearns and you truly believe that Tobias Myers is better than Kodai Senga, are you relegating him to the bullpen to, as Lazy Mary said earlier, piggyback a bunch of Kodai Senga starts, LOL? So that's the one thing I would just kind of prepare. You might disagree with me, but like, or that a trade is possible. But it's just the one thing that I see as I look at this landscape. You know, a pitcher goes down somewhere else. Maybe that's a move the Mets make, because it's hard to. I think Myers, it would be great in that multi-inning relief role. I think it would be fine. He's excelled in that way before, but he's also been a really good starter before. And he's young enough that maybe he's coming into his own. Maybe what we're seeing now is the best of him. So, you know, I don't know that you want to push him to the back burner in favor of, let's say, Kodai Senga, who you've kind of fallen out of love with, or David Peterson, who will be a free agent, not when you've got Tobias Myers for 5 more years.
I think what a lot of people are saying in the comments is fair, how they're just saying they don't trust Kodai Senga. They don't have, or they don't think he can obviously work out of the bullpen. I don't either. I do agree with what Ron Darling said, that this team should not be working around Kodai Senga. This team should be saying to Senga, like, it's your turn to work for us, as opposed to us working for you. Like, we're at that point now where we should be doing these things. I honestly, so I will be a little bit different. I don't think a trade will happen. Now, look, things pop up last second all the time. Could that change? Of course. But I don't know if they're going to do that. I think, if anything, the reason why they want to keep Tobias stretched out the way that they want him to be stretched out is because I think that they are fearful of Senga. And I think that there's also potentially a quick trigger on Senga in terms of removing or what have you, or ridding themselves or whatever it may be. I just think that Tobias is the guy that would step in that moment. If they choose to remain with a 6, if they opted to say, like, no more Senga, he's not getting the job done. Or, I just have a hard time seeing them getting rid of this depth, because so much goes on within the season. As you said, I feel that you have to have at least 10 pitchers ready to go. And this team is at that number where you're like, we got 10 arms, and there's 2 more behind those if they start to show out more too in the minor leagues, that being, the Will Watsons of the world, the Jonathan Santucci's of the world. Like, God forbid, like, you have 2 more arms that could be ready at some point later in the season, potentially. But, like, I think, like you said, I think you put it perfectly. This game today, there's too many injuries. I have a hard time seeing them getting rid of the arms that they have, specifically this close to the season, when they earmarked these 10. This is what we have right now. Eventually, they'll keep on churning pitching like they are, like they should, like any good team should. They'll keep on churning it, so there's always that moving wheel of pitchers. But I think that as of now, I think they have that 10, those back 2, like I mentioned, but I don't think they want those 2 to be pushed up just yet. So I think that the 10 they have are the ones that are going to stay. Things can change, but that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, you're not wrong, because, again, when we're talking about 10, we're including a guy in Christian Scott who, while wildly talented, has not pitched in over a year. We're including a guy
today. Did look good.
He did. And I think he has a more complete repertoire today than Jonah Tong does. I don't think that's insane.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
We're also talking about a guy in Jonah Tong who, while he has some electric stuff and he has true ace potential on the upside, he did look overmatched during his stint here in the majors last year, and he is still very young and he still has some work to do. We are also
he's handling the
guy,
spring so far. He is handling the spring proper so far though by trying to do things, working the cutter. I think I saw someone mention he's trying to throw like a death ball, like just understanding how he needs to change the way the ball is coming out for him as opposed to always just up down going side side as well. Like I think he's handling the spring the way you should. Does he want to be with the starters and be on the opening day roster? I'm sure he does. Anybody at that level would want to be there. But I think he knows this is my time to work on these things, and I will bring this to AAA, and I will continue to hone in on these things so I can then become a part of that 5 or 6 man that's running up in Queens.
Absolutely. But the last person in that mix is Jack Wenninger, who to this point hasn't pitched above AA. So to your point about depth, the reason why I bring up those 3 guys again is, again, I'm kind of advocating for it or making the case for, what happens if one of these guys gets traded and then immediately walking it back. I'm just looking at it from both sides. I could see a situation where they try to open the door for somebody, but at the same time, you mentioned you need at least 10 pitchers, and 3 of those 10 are the guys I just alluded to who are really kind of more on the periphery of being truly counted on than actually counted on. But again, on the flip side, Rosie says the issue is the Mets bullpen is a weakness. They likely need Myers' help in the bullpen, which is fair. But then Ethan says it's easier to stretch out as a starter now instead of doing it in season, which is also fair.
Also fair.
You don't have to go back that far to remember what they were trying to do with Jose Butto, trying to re-stretch him out in the middle of the season, and it did not go well. The one thing I do want to pull up, and this is not a slight at you, Rosie, but I just want to say, Rosie says, plus the Mets starters don't pitch very long. They'll need the arms. I think much like some of the other stuff we talked about a little bit ago, Ibby, I think it's fair to say we might have to move on from this about the Mets starters not pitching very long. I know there are some familiar faces, but there are also some new names in the mix and some new variables in the mix for some of the other names that were here. And sometimes this can be a year-to-year, season-to-season proposition a bit. And I don't think you can let the lack of innings provided by the Mets starting rotation in 2025 color whether or not you think they'll do the same thing in 2026. Do you think that's fair?
I think that that's fair. And I think that the biggest change for me also in this thought process is Justin Willard, where he's come out and said, like, you're no longer with Hefner. Justin Willard has said continuously, and part of his philosophy is that he wants guys to be nasty within the zone, attack the strike zone. And I know, we're talking about Christian Scott, and that's someone that, doesn't walk a lot of people, is always within the strike zone and attacking in that way, which is why I think he will find success, especially under somebody like Willard. That's why I'm very high on Scott, whether it's this year or next. Like, I just think that when you had someone like Hefner here, I think there was a common theme where we would constantly say within our group chats, we would constantly hear it from Mets fans, and you're watching the game and you're just like, stop nibbling. Stop nibbling. Stop nibbling. Like, attack the zone. Stop nibbling on the outside. Like, go after it.
Trust
see it.
Your stuff.
Trust your stuff. And we wouldn't see it. And that would lead to more borderline pitches, more balls thrown, more pitches thrown, guys being worked out of the innings, getting worked out of the game earlier, which is why we weren't getting innings. Like, there was a lot of things going on. The fact that, Sean and I came out and they're saying how, his arm slot was dropping too much. Like, that pisses me off because I would think that my pitching coach would know that my guy was dropping too much. Why weren't we working on that in season to get it proper, as opposed to letting him keep on dropping his arm and thus creating more of an issue for him and not getting the results that you got in 24 that you were expecting in 25. Like, there's a lot there. So I've moved on from the innings thing. That's me, at least.
Yeah. And again, not to, I say this not to pick on Rosie, but for Rosie's
not picking on her at all. No,
but for Rosie's benefit of, like, just move on from that part of it. Honestly, Ethan saying Hefner, LMAO, overrated as fuck. Yeah, I think that's. I
think that's fair.
I think that's how it was. Carson saying more Trevor Williams mentality, in parentheses, not his politics. Here it is. Hit it, bitch. No, but I do think you do need to, sometimes you got to just throw it over the plate and let them hit it. I know I've said this on the show before, and I hate to tell the same stories or not even tell the same stories because it's not my story to tell, recount the same examples. But when Pedro Martinez was on the Mets, and after it was probably his second or third year here, because that first one he was still very good, and he had dealt with some injuries and he wasn't quite the same guy anymore, and we knew that. And the Mets were playing the Rangers, and Marlon Byrd was up, and Pedro got him on the inside of the bat, and Marlon Byrd flew out to deep left center or whatever, warning track. And as he's going to first, he gestures over to Pedro, and they asked Pedro about it afterward. And they're like, what did he say? And he was like, he was telling me I missed it by this much. And he's like, I just said back to him, I only need you to miss it by this much. I don't need you to miss it by this much. This much is enough. It's the difference between you hitting a home run or flying out like you did. And he said it with his classic Pedro Martinez charm, and he laughed through it, but it's the truth. Sometimes you throw a pitch. Ibby, how many times have we seen, flip this, how many times have we seen in the last couple of years behind the tutelage of that pancake shithead, as Carson referred to him earlier, did Mets hitters miss 92-mile-an-hour fastballs, to use the popular baseball colloquialism? Yes, thank you. Right down the dick. I am that is a major league hitter's dream. You go to bed salivating over 91 miles an hour down the middle. So
but it's true. It's all smallest of things.
It's the smallest of things. So I think it's
lazy missing straight cock shots. It's true.
Straight cock shots. So you gotta be nasty in the zone. I do love this. I'm happy Carson brought this up. Willard said, and I quote, "If you can't attack MLB hitters with your stuff, it's not plus stuff." That is a great quote, and that is something you want from your pitching coach. It is.
Absolutely. And again, I think Rosie was just saying, Rosie said it before, the nibbling issue was a huge problem. And that was something that pissed off a lot of us as fans. And I think we're really going to see something different from the staff this year. And I think that the continued use of the lab and understanding the data and what they are as pitchers, and to work in Willard's philosophy on pitching, I'm expecting a much better return. Am I saying that we're going to have 5 Cy Youngs? No, but do I think that the pitching is going to be that much better in comparison to last year? Yes. I don't expect them to go lower as many people think, or anyone that is anti-Met expects them to be. I think that the arrow is pointing up for this pitching staff. I really do.
I do. I also think there will be a regression to the mean for most of the guys who went wrong last year.
Agreed. Everything went wrong. It's not I don't see that happening again.
Yeah. Look, will some things that have been track records, a part of their track records as well, plague some of these guys? I'm sure they will. So in other words, do I expect Kodai Senga to make all of his starts? No, I don't. The guy's never been healthy. Do I think he'll be as bad as he was when he came back from injury, where he was unpitchable and had to go to the minor leagues? I don't see it being that bad. For Sean Manaea, he never really got started. Do I see that being a thing? No. Do I think he'll be the ace in 24 that he was in 24? No, I don't think he'll be that either, but I don't think he has to be. Do I see a situation where every year David Peterson hits a wall? Whether it's, when he was younger, it was 80 innings and he made it to 110 or whatever the hell, now it's 130. It's a wall. I think he'll probably hit a wall again, because that's what he does. That's part of who he is. That's part of the David Peterson experience. But if just going off of that, will that wall come later? It might. Well, if he hits that wall later and the Mets have 6 quality pitchers, maybe you can mitigate that. Or maybe you could put David Peterson in the bullpen in the playoffs and you can mitigate it that way. So I think there's a lot to combat here, because when you look at this situation, things went about as badly as they could have last year.
Yeah, I have a hard time, like you said, regressing back to the mean. That's for this team in general. I really think that that's why I'm of the upside and the positive that I feel for, because it's I don't see everything going wrong again, because that's just not the way baseball goes. Of all the things that we saw last year, everything went wrong. And I think that's once in a lifetime type of stuff. Like it's everything can go wrong, will go wrong. Murphy's Law, like everything. Oh, LOL Mets, like everything that happened. I think that we're going to get much better returns this season. I think that the pitching's I think it's going to be fine. I do. I really do.
I did want to bring up this one from Joe from before because it was a good point and then we kind of moved on. But he said, my favorite thing about Tong this spring is how much he's emphasizing the cutter and reshaping the curve. He knows he has the fastball and the changeup and isn't concerned with spring results, approaching it right. We've spent a little bit of time, I don't want to say knocking Jonah Tong because I don't think we have, but I think in the segment we were really talking about him, we were tempering expectations on him a lot. And I think fairly, but I think a lot of people have very lofty expectations, kind of what Carson was alluding to. I think one of the things you need to say positively about Jonah Tong is not just the fastball stuff and the ace upside potential. It is the fact that even at 21, 22 years old, he has expressed an extreme willingness to listen and learn and hone his craft. And not only the willingness, Ibby, but the ability to do it rather quickly. And I think that speaks to what Joe said here. So, it's not being down on Tong. It's just understanding where he's at. Now, that being said, I think if I was putting my Mets depth chart together right now for starting pitching, I think I would have Christian Scott ahead of him. I do think that if they need a pitcher, I think they're going to go to Scott before they go to Tong because I think Scott is more complete. I think he's more ready.
I think so too. I think he has a little bit more experience in that sense, even though we are 2 years removed from said experience. But like the fact that he comes back today, and I know it's only spring, but he's coming back. He looks sharp, balls in the zone, throwing 97, like popping the glove, like all those things. I think that he is going to be a part of this staff at some point during the season. And I don't want to say that they're going to baby Tong, but I do think that they want to make sure that he, like the next time he comes up, he doesn't go back down. Like that's the way I think that they're going to treat it. So I'm not sure how much of him we're going to see this year, in like assuming all things go proper. But yeah, I don't have a problem with Jonah Tong. I'm not of the ilk of people that are saying you should trade him or you should have traded him or the shine is off the apple, if you will. Like I'm not of that. I'm still extremely high on Jonah Tong. I don't want him traded anywhere. I want him to be a part of this team, a part of this future, because I do believe in the stuff. And I think he's, like Joe said, he's attacking it the right way because he knows he can find success with those two other pitches. Let's focus on what I need help with, and let's get as many live reps as I can to then bring it to Syracuse and to further work on it so I have multiple offerings so I can succeed at the major league level.
Yes. And non-generian with a good point. Scott versus Tong. It's not like this has to be decided now.
Right. Exactly.
Very, very true.
Exactly.
I do want to highlight this from Joshua Lex Grand Crackers, and then we'll get into our crown comments and get out of here because we're over 2 hours. Tong threw 1 or 2 sinkers, which also look good. He's in the process of developing an arsenal he needs. Right now he's in the development phase. It'll take time and people have to be patient. I really just want to focus on the sinkers, Ibby, because one of the things when you think about Jonah Tong's fastball is that induced vertical break, the fact that it stays and lives up in the zone at an elite level when you factor in his release point and all of that stuff, without having a sinking fastball and without having a pitch that moved left to right or right to left, as it were, throw hand to glove side for Tong. He was also forced to throw his 4-seam fastball lower in the zone to keep people honest. And that takes away some of that induced vertical break action that he gets, or it mitigates it where it's like, okay, well now it's coming out of the hand high and it's staying high and it looks high and it's harder to hit and it's harder to square up. You lose a little bit of that when you start throwing it down in the zone. If you have a sinking fastball that you can just mix in for a strike, that's another good way to add something to your repertoire. So it is good to see him continue to work on not only the left-right movement, but also a fastball he can throw down in the zone that doesn't hurt the fastball he already has up in the zone.
21 years old. Like he's very much a piece of clay, very moldable, very, very willing to learn. Like he's going to be fine. I think people need to just calm down a little bit. Again, I preach patience on this show so damn much. Make sure you have it for Jonah Tong this year. he's going to be fine, and he's going to be a force for this team at some point moving forward.
Rosie saying Tong is also very personable, seems like a good fit in the clubhouse, to which Joe DeMeo says, Jonah is one of the best kids you'll ever meet, Rosie. So yeah, easy to root for it. That goes
very easy.
Ibby, do you have a crowned comment this week? There's a lot of stuff saved. I'm toying with 2 in particular. So it's gonna be tough. I think I actually unstarred one of them by accident, which is now a pain in the ass because now I have to go back and try to find it. I unstarred the wrong one.
I mean, based off of all the ones that are on here, you know what? I'm gonna go with this one. Lazy Mary. Danhousen has already cursed Mark Healy. I thought that was a good pop, and there's so many from Lazy that I like this week. So he was going to be my pick regardless, and that crown's going to stay on him. But I think based off of the amount that we have starred, I think he takes up like 75% of them anyway. So Lazy, you are getting the crown from me this week. And I really like this one because it popped me good. And I loved that Joe brought up that question because I thought it was a good part of the show.
Okay, so my crown comment is in the same vein.
Okay.
Somebody who has not won before, and that's our boy Keith.
Hey.
Keith Diaz saying Danhousen to curse Wardy's second team. I just think that whole thing, and again, shout out Wardy, no issues with Wardy, but that whole thing, the way that it went down on Mets Twitter, and I also, just to be fair, I don't really believe in having second teams. He can do whatever he wants. I think a second team in quotes is just like you're doing a little much. But that's me. He can do what he wants. I don't subscribe to it. But I just think that this was funny, not only on our show, but I think it just, I know it's a couple days old, and it's like the news cycle changes so quickly with sports and news and media, whatever. But this one is just, it's beyond our show. It was funny on the show.
Yes.
But it's funny in the Mets Twitter ecosystem.
Right.
So I like
the
that
world
one.
that we all live in. Yeah, it's a good one.
Correct. And I do have to give, and Lazy saying the champ is here, and then also saying I'm very proud to share the crown with the great Keith this week. And he should be, because Keith is indeed great.
Keith is the man.
But I do think there is a little bit of a shout out that needs to go. There's a little bit of a shout out that needs to go to Joe DeMeo, because both of those comments
are based off of what he asked.
A question that he asked. Yeah.
And
so
you clearly just left the balloons.
I don't know how the balloons happen. I know how the thumbs up happens. I don't know how the fucking balloons happen. But I do think that Joe needs a little bit of he deserves a little bit of comments. He deserves credit because they were born out of his
right. They respond out of his question, which is, again, I thought was a great part of the show this week.
Is it going to be enough to get him into the opening credits? We'll see. You know,
again, you know who to talk to, Joe. It's not me, man. It's not me.
You know, I got to be honest, Ibby, one of the biggest issues is I don't have the native file anymore. So that means I'd have to edit the finished file. And it's when you edit a finished file and try to put something else in it, like you can, but it's going to be such a pain in the ass.
Or we work on something new. And
we could work on something new. I don't have the time right now, but eventually we will have to change it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony HVAC, for saying great show, guys.
Thank you, Tony.
Anything we didn't get to that we got to say before we get out of here?
The only thing I'll bring up is I know Luis Robert was on the backfields today, and I know that I put him on the thumbnail this week, and he's part of the description about him debuting. I thought it was going to be in the actual game today, and it was on the backfields, but clearly he's going to get more action this week. Something for all of us to watch as fans. I do think that, you know, the sound of the bat, and when you're watching things in batting practice, it sounds great off of him. I know he struck out today on the backfields against AJ Minter, which is great to see from Minter. And you also have to understand you're going to see your fair share of strikeouts from Robert. Obviously, you don't want to see it that much against a lefty because his job is to mash lefties, which has been his thing his entire career. But it's good to see him out there in a real setting. I know they want to bring him along slow. I trust this medical staff to do the right thing by him to keep him on the field. And we all know that the times that Luis Robert has been on the field, he has been able to produce. So hopefully the Mets can do that. And I have some high hopes for Robert. I think he's going to do a solid job for us. But, this week is important, and the weeks moving forward towards the start of the season are going to be big for Robert, and hopefully he can take advantage of it, and he can have himself a fine year for us.
I agree with a lot of what you said about Robert. I think if they keep him healthy, he is going, and he plays a healthy season, he is going to flirt with 25-25. I think he can hit 25 home runs and steal 25
Would
bases.
love it.
And if you can get that out of your center fielder in the landscape of today's Major League Baseball, and also, yes, coming off of what we got from center field last year, it just would be tremendous. Also, when your team has, Bo Bichette.
It's been a long time since the Mets got. It's been a long time in general since the Mets got production like that from center field.
Absolutely. So, Ibby, this was really fun. Sorry again for not being able to make it last week. Happy to be back this week. It was a blast. I hope everybody else enjoyed it. If you guys missed any of the show, if you had to leave early, if you just got here and you're like, oh no, now what? Yes, you can always like the video. Even when it's over, it is all good. But if you missed it, you can watch it on replay on YouTube, on Twitter, on Substack, or you can listen when this drops later on as a podcast, wherever it is you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all of those places. I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. We will see you next week. Peace.